The rain tapped steadily against the tall windows of the Whitmore estate, a hollow rhythm that echoed in Clara Whitmore's heart. For years, she had stood beside Richard Hayes, her childhood sweetheart, her business partner, her husband. Together, they had built a life wrapped in luxury and respect. To the outside world, theirs was the perfect marriage. But perfection has cracks. Clara first noticed the whispers, subtle glances exchanged at the firm, hushed conversations cut short. As she entered the room, she brushed it off, convincing herself that paranoia was the enemy of love. Until the night, she found the text messages. Dozens of them. Messages that spoke of passion, of betrayal, of secrets shared between Richard and Clara's closest friend, Amelia, the woman Clara had trusted since boarding school, the one who had been her maid of honor. The words stung like blades, each one carving away the last remnants of her trust. Clara didn't scream, she didn't confront, she simply smiled, because in that moment, a fire ignited within her, a cold, calculating flame. She wouldn't destroy them with rage. No, that was too easy. Clara would dismantle Richard and Amelia piece by piece, until their empire of lies crumbled into dust. The plan unfolded slowly, meticulously. Clara knew Richard's weaknesses better than anyone: his greed, his vanity, and his obsession with control. She began by planting seeds of doubt. At board meetings, she casually highlighted minor inconsistencies in Richard's financial reports, forcing him to defend himself before the investors. Her tone was never accusatory, just curious, enough to make them wonder if Richard was slipping. Next, she nurtured Amelia's ambition. Over late-night drinks, Clara pretended to confide in her old friend. "You know, Richard doesn't give you enough credit," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with false vulnerability. "You're far more capable than he realizes." Amelia, blinded by her hunger for validation, lapped up the compliments. She began pushing Richard for more involvement in the firm's decisions, creating tension between them. The cracks widened. The climax came on the night of the annual Whitmore Foundation Gala. The ballroom sparkled with chandeliers, laughter, and glasses clinking with champagne. Richard stood proudly at the center, his arm wrapped around Amelia, introducing her as the firm's strategic advisor. Clara, dressed in a gown of midnight silk, watched them from across the room, her smile sharp as glass. Halfway through the evening, Clara stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice ringing clear, "tonight we celebrate not only success, but truth. And in the spirit of truth, I have something to share." The crowd hushed as screens around the room lit up with projections, emails, text messages, photographs, evidence of Richard and Amelia's affair, evidence of Richard's financial manipulations, evidence of everything Clara had carefully collected over months. Gasps filled the hall. Investors shifted uncomfortably. Richard's face turned ashen, his confident facade shattering in front of hundreds of witnesses. Amelia froze, her lips parting, but no words escaping. "Betrayal," Clara said softly into the microphone, "is expensive. And tonight, you both will pay." By the next morning, Richard's career was in ruins. The board forced him to resign. Scandal consuming the empire he once controlled. Amelia, branded as both a fraud and a homewrecker, was shunned by the very social circle she had once longed to dominate. And Clara, she walked away untouched, her reputation not only intact, but strengthened. She had played the perfect victim, turning sympathy into power. The estate, the wealth, the influence, all of it remained hers. But more than that, Clara walked away with the satisfaction that revenge wasn't about rage or destruction. It was about patience. It was about making sure your enemies drowned in the mess they created, while you stood tall on the shore. As she sipped her morning coffee, watching the rain slide down the window, Clara whispered to herself, "The price of betrayal is everything."